Handling the letter T. The American accent is composed of a few ridiculously inventive quirks, one of them being the glottal stop. Let us first turn the conversation toward how Americans pronounce the letter T when it appears at the end of a syllable. Here are 4 cases, each handled in a slightly different fashion. Sent, late, party, beautiful. When preceded by either an N or L, the letter T has a greater chance of being articulated. The return of a pronounced T may occur because N and L are both made by the tongue tip striking the gum ridge behind the upper teeth. Distant, adult, treatment, identified, difficult, paint, tilt, melt, parent, point, joint, scent, mint. I resented the advice of my opponent. She spoke in her gentlest, most hypnotic voice. She had a gigantic family. I felt strange every time I entered the mall. Pretending that present circumstances are what you want is a form of fantasy. Why can't she stay here? He went to the front of the elegant house. I didn't want to explain the recent development. All hope vanished the moment I understood what he meant. The student was granted permission to stand in front of the apartment. His dream assignment was to work on independent films. It would have meant a lot to my father. The prominent couples were from different countries. I was too impatient to wait. Americans generally abstain from pronouncing the final T. This is because the air will usually be stopped in the vocal folds before the tip of the tongue has a chance to strike behind the upper teeth. In American English, most final T's will go unarticulated. Might, white, light, got, cut, tight, out, spot, but. You ought to get a job. They returned home that night to eat the overcooked meat. I can't wait all night. The man at the yacht club treats us like old friends. I thought you were watching your weight. She grew distraught, yet looked straight at me. If the letter T appears at the end of a syllable and between 2 vowel sounds, it can sound more like a letter D than anything else. Pretty, complicated, naughty, native, fighting, gladiator, responsibility, ability. Kenny found out we were dating. I liked him because he treated me as a companion. He visited her after school. He was happy to stand for hours explaining every single item in the cabinet. What are you doing with that water? He believed a monster waited for him. I felt better knowing he was only a bus ride away. One afternoon, we were eating a cherry tart he'd bought at the farmer's market. I was afraid of getting in too deep. You might have noticed how little time was spent on creating art. I enjoyed the beautiful letter to the editor. My smartphone has unlimited texting capabilities. Many writers have pointed out the positive benefits. He spent 4 undefeated seasons in the arena. The elected representative proved himself a traitor. Los Angeles Community College updated its website. The most ignored factor in high-intensity bodybuilding is the necessary amount of rest. The entire issue might be made clear if we looked at it in terms of the body's capacity to cope with stress. Those resources contributed to more growth. I was aware of music emanating from the rear of the apartment. When things get complicated around T endings, the result, and the centerpiece of this lesson, is the glottal stop. In this case, the vocal folds tighten for a brief moment, robbing the tongue of its ability to articulate the T. This complete stoppage of air can be triggered by the stressed syllable ending in a vowel combination, as in apartment, or the syllable following the T ending centering around a consonant, such as the letter N, as in button. It sometimes just happens because the lax D isn't enough to convey the word, as in city. The technical definition of a glottal stop is the rapid closing of the vocal cords. This occurs even where no T is present, such as the space between the words walk back. What's being analyzed here are the cases where that break between syllables seems to take more than a mere articulated T or D substitution. Title, bottles, assortment, butter. The shooters were eating outside. Which city is the capital? He had certainly been converted. He scanned the bulletin board. He snorted with laughter. Try not to get beaten up on Saturday night. They seemed not to notice Sasha's entrance.